Call on your law, y'all. Bashim Shah, Bashim Kakadash, Double Honor, Apostle Elsbury Millstone, Peace, Citation, Hope for Life. And so we're gonna come up with a title for this lesson, but I'm gonna get into this article which deals with the history of fiat money and talks about how it crashed. Basically, three nations, which two were empires and one was pretty much considered as a country. So it says 3 fiat money systems that have crashed. This is by providentmetals.com on December 13, 2017, filed under extras. So it says since ancient times, precious metals like gold and silver have held intrinsic value and been used in a variety of ways. And by the way, outside from the article, this is going to say that would be considered as commodity money, of course, because it's actually backed up by something that's precious and valuable. And it says, apart from industrial, medicinal, and ornamental uses, metals also have a long history of being used as money. This is because precious metals have qualities such as scarcity, durability, malleability, and portability. Over time and in all areas of the world, money systems that use or were backed by precious metals or other commodities started giving way to fiat money systems. Fiat money is paper currency that is used as legal tender according to governmental laws. This type of currency is produced by central banks and has no inherent value. Rather, it holds value simply because the government says it does. And one more thing I'm also going to mention out of the article, it says, like, when it's coming to the word, fiat, it means like comes from the Latin, let it be done. So basically, what was done in that, of course, was the value of the monetary system. That's when it started like denigrating, because of course, like, when you introduce something as fiat currency, it's going to be more in excess supply, which means that everyone at a quick amount of time is going to have access to it, and eventually that leads to inflation, which is unfortunate. So it says fiat money can be made at any time and in any amount deemed necessary for economic or political reasons. Throughout the centuries, every one of these fiat money systems have eventually failed. Some nations fell into economic chaos when this happened, while others revert back to a money system based on commodities. A government's power to print an unlimited supply of money too often leads to corruption and currency debasement. Basically what I was going into. It says, let's look at some examples of the world's fiat money systems that have crashed throughout time. So first one was the Athens, Greece. That was like the first empire that Esau, was set up in rulership, starting with Alexander the Great, if I'm not mistaken. And I just wanted to point out that, during this time period within Greece, this was like the Hellenistic time period or so, when Alexander the Great, started the Greek Empire that was ruled by Edomites, because there were different civilizations in history that, ruled in a particular region, and Japhet was, of course, like the first to rule in ancient Greece and Rome, before the Edomites started taking over and ruling. That's a topic for another lesson. So, where am I? Because it says the world's first democracy was created in Athens, turning it into the strongest city-state in Greece. From 431 to 414 BC, the nation fought the Spartans in Peloponnesian War. Decades of war led the nation to debase their currency in order to finance their struggles. Copper was mixed into their gold and silver coins, and the deficit spending led to disaster. Over the years, their economy relied more heavily on fiat money. Their commodity-based money became nearly worthless, and the economic ripples affected everyone. Athens eventually fell to devastation and never rose to be a significant power again. And you see, that was just mixing their money with another commodity that was deemed to be not as valuable. So how much more when we're talking about paper money in this time period? Anywho, it says the Roman Empire now. And of course, this is the empire where it started in the BC time period, but you know, this is of course the empire where it ended sometime in 476 AD, if I'm not mistaken. But you know, of course, that time period in between there, Yasharahla was, you know, of course, born, and he walked the earth for that, you know, around that time, during the time of Caesar's reign. So it says, for centuries, the Roman Empire used currency debasement to fund wars, social programs, and public works programs. They melted down coin clippings to make more coins, mixed copper in with precious metals, minted the same coins at a higher face values, and minted coins without commodity backing. Inflation eventually grew out of control. This deficit spending is one of the contributing factors that led to the failure of the empire and nation. In fact, the Roman Empire held the first documented case of hyperinflation in 301 AD. A pound of gold was worth 50,000 denarii. By the middle of the century, the price of gold had increased about 42,000 times, making currency worthless. And this is the German Weimar Republic. And it says, following World War I, the German Weimar Republic government had depleted gold reserves by paying war reparations to the Allied nations, according to the condition of the Treaty of Versailles. Upon the failure to honor these repayments, France and Belgium occupied parts of the industrialized areas in Germany. That pressure forced the German government to print fiat money in order to compensate during the crisis, which led to hyperinflation. Banknotes were printed to 1,000 times their normal value, causing the value of the paper mark in decline drastically over the span of a few years. It wasn't long before the German paper mark was worthless. At the time, the Renten mark was introduced to replace the existing currency. The exchange rate was 1 for 1 trillion. And of course, that's what led to that hyperinflation in World War I, where you see kids having, like, we're talking about mad layers of you know, stacks of cash, where pretty much, like, you know, you see those Lego projects where they build like big ass you know, Lego houses and things of that nature. They were stacking money just like that. Like, you could play Jenga with it. That's how worthless the money was. And it says, so what have we learned? Historically speaking, commodity-based currencies remain more stable than fiat currencies. The laws of supply and demand dictate that more money that is printed, the less it will be worth. Expanding the money supply during a crisis creates a situation that is difficult to overcome in the aftermath. In many cases, the economic damage has proven irreversible. That being said, all of today's developed nations use a fiat money system. Some economists and individuals are wary of fiat money because of its history of crashing. What is their solution? Investing in gold, silver, and other precious metals and commodities. Having a cache of metals which have always held intrinsic value can provide monetary protection in the event of a fiat system crash. There are many ways to invest, including the ongoing Bitcoin boom, but only metals have proven long-term stability and value. So, and I just wanted to point this out, pretty much in the German Weimar Republic, as of, like, you know, the time period that Esau started ruling again, which of course that was like the Renaissance time period, which to this day he's currently in rulership. I would say that the nation that also introduced, like, the fiat currency, technically it was during the AD time period, but it was before the Renaissance actually. They mentioned that China also introduced that as well at one point. But if anything, they weren't the first heathens. Moab wasn't the first heathen that introduced the fiat currency ultimately in history. That was pretty much Esau, showing you how much of a devil he is. So China introduced that around the time of the, Dark Ages or so. Because if I'm not mistaken, it was around the 13th century that they decided to pull that paper money BS. Without further ado, I'll get into some scriptures, and Lord willing, make this lesson edifying. And this is Habakkuk chapter 2, verse 5. It says, "Yet also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth desire as hell, and is as deaf, and cannot be satisfied. But gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunt and proverb against him, and say, Woe to him that increaseth that which is not his, how long, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay." So, of course, he enlarged desire as hell, which is Esau, talking about how he devalues the money system, prints an excess amount of paper money into supply, and then at the same time, it's like, yo, he's so wicked. Like, he causes inflation. Then it's like he has everything around you to increase in price, which is an effect of inflation. Then he devalues the money system, so like every dollar that's printed currently and that's going to be printed is going to be less than the one that was previously printed. So keep that in mind. Then you got taxes that you got to pay for, and then at the same time, it's like when he loans you that artificial fake money, you gotta pretty much make payments on certain loans or so, because your credit score will go down if you don't make a certain payment. And sometimes, like, depending on the type of loan that you took out, they could probably even pull a foreclosure and take back that home that you pretty much took out a bank loan to pay for, or even your vehicle. It's possible. Trust me, it's happened to a lot of people. Eventually, people lose their mind and crash out for being so heavily invested into this satanic infested society. That's why Scripture says, "Depart from the land, because it's not your rest." You have the average Edomite struggling. So at this point, how much more, you so-called black Spanish Native Americans going to be struggling on this side? Scripture said that Esau can't be satisfied, because it's like he wants to crash the society to push his digital system. Because at that point, it's like when he pushes that MOTB, your money is just going to be digital, and that's definitely not backed up by anything. It's just going to show us numbers on the computer screen, and that gives them more power to control the money at any given time, because they can control how much you get to use and how much you get to take out. Well, Salaki, it's not going to be you taking out anything, but they're going to control how much you're able to buy. And that MOTB that they're going to implement in this upcoming future is going to be the highest level of communism, because of course they're trying to push for a technocracy, like in the 1984 by George Orwell, a dystopian society. That's how they want to control people, you know what I'm saying? And they're trying to push that. They say the truth is stranger than fiction, but of course that's what Esau's trying to do, because what the scriptures say, he cannot be satisfied. And even Sirach chapter 12 verse I believe it's 16, it tells us about how you should never trust thine enemy, and he can't be satisfied with blood. So um, it goes to show you that even with all the wealth he has, he knows he's not happy, because at the end of the day, he's never going to get the blessing that was promised to the Israelites, which are you so-called Black, Hispanics, Native Americans. And you see, one thing about these other nations, they're tired of, these Edomites, and I'm saying in particular the American Edomites. They're tired of America always having a foot over their neck in terms of the trade wars, in terms of like other countries' affairs. They're sick of it. You got Russian Edomites and you got other Edomites in the EU that's sick and tired of the American Edomites in general. That's how ancient Rome fell as well. It's because you had a lot of division amongst Esau. Because when Rome came into power, they started oppressing the Greeks, and they overcame the Greeks and basically took them over and had to make their government enforce their policies upon, the Greeks. And basically, when they were in rulership, the Greeks had to pay tributary to the Romans, and of course follow after their ways and their customs. And Esau is trying to enforce that NWO, to be upon the whole entire world. And these other nations, they're tired of that shit. So that's why they have the BRICS, which is a alliance. It tells you that in Ezekiel 38 chapter about how basically all these other countries are going to have their alliance with each other to pretty much be against America, which is aka Babylon. And eventually it's just going to be things that's going to lead to the downfall of America. And verse 7 says, shall they not rise up suddenly that shall bite thee, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them. And another thing too is like in verse 6, when it goes into that thick clay, of course that's going into the debt, because America owes a lot of debt to China, and at this point they owe a lot of debt to a lot of other nations too, because of the pushing their fake fiat currency, the paper dollar, and by putting central banks in other nations to control their currency. This country, America, they owe a lot of money to these other nations, and mainly it's being ran by these Rothschilds and these Rockefellers, these wicked banking family members that rule the world. And all this is set in stage for Ordo ad Chaos, of course, because when they cause the chaos, they're going to come in as the saviors to try to push for the solution, which is to implement the MOTB. And at this point, there's a lot of black swan events that could lead to the MOTB being implemented. Esau has a lot of excuses for, at this point, implementing that. And one of it is basically the crash of the dollar, which they're working on doing. Because when you have the BRICS now, there's over like 150 something countries that's gonna start accepting the BRICS. And if I'm not mistaken, it's over 190 or to maybe 200 countries. So the dollar is on its way to crash very soon. And it says in verse 8, because thou hast spoiled many nations, all the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of the men's blood, and for the violence of the land, of the city, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. Right. And that's what Esau has done, all throughout his time of rulership. He has been using his power for the wickedness, and he basically has abused his power and set his nest on high, as it tells you in Obadiah, that how he set his nest among the stars, and he said that he would be like the Most High, like in Isaiah the 14th chapter. So it goes to show you how prideful he is. Scriptures tell you that it says, the Most High is not in all his thoughts. And I'm going to bring out last two precepts. It says in Ecclesiastes chapter 10 verse 6, it says, folly is set in great dignity, and the rich sit in low place. Right. And of course, the folly that's set in great dignity is having these other nations to rule over us, you know, which is set up by the Heavenly Father just to show why these other nations, especially Esau, out of all these other nations, aren't fit out to rule. Because I mean, at this point, look how they're destroying the world. They're not only destroying the economy, they pretty much are destroying the society as a whole. And in Ecclesiastes chapter 10 verse 16, I'll make this the last one. It says, woe to thee, O land, when thy king is a child and thy princes eat in the morning. Right. So you have it to where Esau is considered to be, you know, the king, because he's in rulership. But at the same time, it's like, look what he's doing, you know, to the world as a whole. He's even causing now the Americans to even suffer at this point, you know, because at one point America was pretty much, you know, doing well, especially during the 80s and 90s, and even some point in the early 2000s. And now, you know, we're at the point where people are being backed up on certain financial payments, and they're even backed up on, let's say, rent, backed up on like car note payments and things of that nature. And you have to decide at this point which bills are more important to pay. And this is all because we have a fool like Esau that's ruling. With that, hope let's edify, let's give all glory, praise, honor to Adonai Yahweh, Bashem Shalom, Yahweh Shabbat, Shalom, Kakadash, the honor, support to Elsbert, Milso, peace, citation, hope for elect, Shalom.